Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Albee, and today I will be providing some updates on the California alternate assessments and the alternate ELPAC. I am the Educational Research and Evaluation Administrator in the English Language Proficiency and Spanish Assessments Office at the California Department of Education. And my colleague, Brittany Baus, is an educational program consultant in my office, and she will also be presenting with me today. So just quickly to go over our agenda today, we will be providing you with an updated guidance for the alternate assessments, some information on second scoring for the California alternate assessment for ELA and the alternate English language proficiency assessments for California, or ELPAC. I'll be giving you an update on the 1% threshold surveys, and then I will be passing over the mic to Brittany, and she will cover the alternate ELPAC updates. Please note that we will cover lots of information in this presentation. We provided Debbie Montoya with our note-taking guide that will provide a summary of what we cover today, along with links to the various resources that we mention in this presentation. First, I'd like to talk to you about the ALT for All guidance for assigning alternate assessments to students. A student who meets the criteria for one alternate assessment should meet the criteria for all alternate assessments. Students who truly are the most significantly cognitively impaired will display those issues across all areas of function and performance. There are no options for taking a mix of assessments this year. Additionally, the Test Operations Management System, or TOMS, will not allow a student to be registered for the alternate ELPAC and a general English language arts, mathematics, and science assessment, or vice versa. The Individualized Education Program, or IEP teams, should carefully consider the test assignment decisions on the basis of student need and the appropriateness of the assignment. This is particularly important for our English learner students identified to take the alternate ELPAC in kindergarten through grade 2. Alternate assessment guidance on the California Department of Education website has been updated to reflect this requirement and is provided to you in your note-taking guide. So, historically, students with a specific learning disability has been the third largest group identified for alternate assessments. When students are identified with a specific learning disability, the determination that the student has a specific learning disability rules out the consideration of the student having a cognitive impairment and the consideration of an alternate assessment. We've been working to ensure uniformity and consistency across all of our alternate assessments over the past year. The CDE has designed a new resource for our test examiners. It's called the Response Options for Alternate Assessments. And this is a resource that provides test examiners with brief guidance on the 3 student response options available in their test delivery system: pause and resume, mark as no response, and skip. Note, however, that the mark as no response option is only available for the California alternate assessment for science and the alternate ELPAC at this time. This guide includes descriptions and tips for test examiners on when and why to choose, on the basis of their knowledge of the student, any of the 3 student response options. This resource can be found on the CASP and ELPAC website, and the link can be found in your note-taking guide. Next, on the basis of feedback from our test examiners who administer the alternate assessments, the Directions for Administration, or DFAs, have been revised and improved for consistency across all alternate assessment programs to benefit our test examiners, who administer these assessments in multiple content areas. The new, easy-to-use, and accessible DFAs can be accessed in the Test Operations Management System, or TOMS. Our current DFAs available are for the alternate ELPAC and our CAAs for science. CAAs for ELA and math will be later released this late fall, early winter. So this year, second scoring will be required for the California Alternate Assessment, or CAA, for ELA, English Language Arts, and the alternate ELPAC for all rubric scored items. As part of federal requirements, all rubric scored items must undergo a 10% back read or second scoring for validity. The actual participation for CAA for ELA last year didn't reach the statistical tipping point for the forums. Second scoring of the California alternate assessment for ELA was postponed due to the pandemic, but starts again with the 2021-22 administration. Any LEA identified for second scoring will be assigned a version 5 of the DFA. LEAs assigned second scoring for the alternate ELPAC have also been identified and can check the second scoring assignments on the elpac.org website. For sampling, LEAs will be notified if they are selected to participate in the second scoring this year. LEAs will not be asked to participate in second scoring for 2 consecutive years. So what is a secondary scorer? LEAs selected for second scoring will need to arrange to have a second test examiner present during testing. The secondary test examiner will need to complete the same training as the primary test examiner. The same process for the CAAs for ELA and for alternate ELPAC occur. The secondary test examiner observes testing and scores in the moment only the rubric scored items. These will be marked in the test administrator interface and directions for administration. The secondary test examiner will enter their scores in the data entry interface during or as soon as possible following the testing. All scores must be entered into the DEI prior to close of the testing window. The scores from the secondary test examiner do not affect the student's results. Also, the CAA for ELA and Math 2020-21 test forms are being reused this year for the 21-22 administration, along with our alternate ELPAC field test, which was postponed from this last spring to starting this fall. And here are some updates on the 1% threshold survey. So it's important to note that there will only be one submission for each local educational agency. If someone in the LEA makes another submission, they will get an error message. If the first entry was an error, you can still contact us to amend the submission. You will now receive a confirmation of submission. You will no longer need to worry if your submission was received or not. There are changes to the rationale section. You will now have 2 basic choices, small LEA or specialized programs. There will be a smaller text entry box, but information about the IEP team procedures followed, etc., is not relevant information. We need to know why the LEA is over. Additionally, the 1% threshold survey does not apply to the alternate ELPAC. Administration of the alternate ELPAC is not included in the count. Oh, sorry. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brittany, who would like to share some updates for the alternate ELPAC.
Thanks, Tracy. Hi, I'm Brittany Baus. Now, I'm going to share some updates for the alternate ELPAC with you, starting with some of the 2021-22 alternate ELPAC milestones. The alternate ELPAC operational field test will be held November 1st, 2021 through February 15th, 2022. All eligible students must participate in the field test. This includes all English learner students who have the most significant cognitive disabilities and who have been determined eligible for alternate assessments by their IEP team. In spring 2022, standard setting meetings will begin. In May 2022, threshold scores will be proposed to the State Board of Education, and summative alternate ELPAC student score reports are anticipated to be released in summer 2022 after the board approves the thresholds. Finally, in July 2022, the initial alternate ELPAC will launch. So at this time, it is essential for IEP teams to begin preparations well in advance for this test. The alternate ELPAC operational field test is a census field test, which means that it must be administered to all eligible kindergarten through grade 12 students. LEA should begin identifying eligible students as soon as possible. Students must continue to be administered the initial ELPAC through 2021-2022, which may include a locally determined alternate assessment and be determined to be an EL prior to participating in the alternate ELPAC operational field test. It is important to make sure that LEA staff has been properly trained to administer the field test. So be sure that the virtual training has been completed and all staff have been trained to ensure a successful launch. LEAs who have had historical enrollments that do not have current enrollments should complete certification. LEAs must be certified to train their staff. But if an LEA has no history of eligible students, then there is no need to certify. All test examiners will be asked to answer survey questions, which are embedded in the alternate ELPAC testing interface. A preview of the in-test survey can be found in the alternate ELPAC online test administration manual, and you can find a link to that in your note-taking guide. The alternate ELPAC assesses the 4 domains of English language proficiency, which are reading, listening, writing, and speaking, through receptive and expressive communication modes. This ensures that students can respond to test questions in a manner that they are most familiar with, whether it involves the use of picture cards, augmentative and alternative communication devices or AAC devices, gesturing or pointing, etc. The directions for administration, or DFAs, include directions for optional individualization for students who need additional individualization to respond to test questions where appropriate. So now I'd like to talk about a special comparability study called the English Only Study, or the EO study. The EO study is being conducted to gather evidence of validity. A special comparison group of students with the most significant cognitive disabilities who speak only English will take the alternate ELPAC operational field test. This is crucial to ensure that the operational field test items are measuring students' English language proficiency. A sample of English-only students with the most significant cognitive disabilities are being recruited by the Sacramento County Office of Education to take the alternate ELPAC operational field test to support the test content validity. The plan is to compare the item statistics from the alternate ELPAC population to the item statistics from the English-only group and evaluate items that may be performing differently. If the test is measuring English language proficiency, it's expected that English-only students will perform better than English learner students on lower complexity items. The results from the English-only sample will help inform whether there are issues with any of the items. So this is, a very important study, but success depends on your participation. So we need your help. We need a sufficient number of English-only students who have comparable abilities as their English learner counterparts to make sure that this test is measuring students' English language abilities and not their test-taking abilities. These English-only students must have an IEP that indicates the use of an alternate assessment. For most LEAs, we're seeking test examiners who are already administering the alternate ELPAC field test to administer the test to one or more additional English-only students. The test examiner must, however, be familiar with the English-only student's preferred mode of communication. And there will be a monetary incentive for LEAs who participate in the English-only study. For each English-only student tested, the Sacramento County Office of Education will provide to LEAs a stipend of $150. So please refer to the note-taking guide to learn more, and please consider how your LEA can be part of this important study, and take a look at which students in your LEA might be good candidates. Now I'd like to discuss standard setting for the alternate LPAC. The purpose of standard setting is to work with educators to establish recommended threshold scores to distinguish the 3 performance levels for the alternate LPAC. The threshold scores are expected to be presented to the State Board of Education for approval in May 2022. The CBE will be recruiting educators soon. Educators who have experience working with English learner students who are eligible to take alternate assessments are needed. We're specifically looking for 10 educators for each of the operational field test grades and grade spans. Educators working with kindergarten students and students in grades 1 and 2 will meet during the first week, Tuesday, February 22nd through Thursday, February 24th. Educators working with students in grades 3 through high school will meet Monday, February 28th through Wednesday, March 2nd. The process will be conducted remotely, and all training and preparation for the workshop will be provided. If you or a colleague might be interested, please visit the Educators Opportunity portal on the ELPAC website. There is more information in the note-taking guide if you need it. This is a great professional development opportunity for educators, and we need your help. The alternate LPAC field test will meet requirements for annual English language proficiency, or ELP testing. There is no need to administer a locally determined alternate ELP assessment to eligible EL students for the 2021-22 school year. The results of the field test will be reported, and students will receive a summative alternate LPAC student score report. The CDE will begin discussions pertaining to reclassification guidance once the first operational test has been completed. From now on, no locally determined alternate assessments will be allowed for summative LPAC testing. So now I'd like to share some new resources that are available and will be helpful with the administration of the alternate LPAC field test. There are links to each resource in your note-taking guide. Please note that new resources are coming out all the time, so keep an eye out for news about when they're posted and available. So first, we have the ELD connectors available for educators. They were only available in the alternate LPAC blueprints, but now they're available on an easy-to-read document that will be separate from the blueprints. We have a new flyer called the Alternate LPAC Participation Scoring Flyer. This one is a resource that's designed to provide testing scenarios that indicate when a student is counted toward participation and receives a student score report. We have also updated the training and practice DFAs, and it's highly recommended to go to the training and practice tests ahead of administration to get a firsthand look at the test layout and accessibility resources. The alternate LPAC accommodations and accessibility guidelines have been posted since March, but may now be useful as you plan student resources for testing. And the new Starting Smarter website for alternate LPAC is now available. This particular website is designed specifically for parents and guardians and is full of great information and resources. So that wraps up our presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today.